Hello everybody. Welcome to the webinar from ISPMA and ISQI. Thank you everybody for joining us today. Our topic today will be product manager versus product owner, synonym, conflict or synergy. And before we start with our actual topic, I would like to do a short introduction. So today Hans-Bernd Kittlaus, the chairman of ISPMA, Harm Lucassen, who is ISPMA Extended Board member, Marcel and me from ISQI will guide you through this presentation. And I will start with giving you some general information about ISQI at first. And we are the international certification body of ISPMA and are responsible for conducting the exams and for the certifications. Afterwards, I will hand over to our experts who will talk about the actual topic, about the differences and the synergies of product manager and product owner. So please feel free to ask questions during this webinar by using the chat or the question function, and we all will be happy to answer your questions after the webinar. So for those who haven't been in contact with ISQI before, some facts and figures for the start. ISQI has been founded in 2004 in Potsdam, Germany, and now we have 3 subsidiaries worldwide in the Netherlands, the UK and in the US in Boston. And until today we conducted over 120,000 exams on 6 continents in 90 countries and 10 languages. We are working together globally with over 300 invigilators who are conducting our exams. And moreover, I would like to explain you the cooperation model between ISPMA, the International Software Product Management Association, the certification bodies and the training providers. So our cooperation is based on the certification process ISO IEC 17024, and this process divides the responsibilities of each party very strictly. So ISPMA, as the board, as the responsible board, publishes and maintains the curriculum, the glossary and the certification procedure for the CSPM, foundation level and excellence levels. The certification tests are conducted by ISQI, and we are an independent certification body. It's important for you to know that ISPMA itself does not conduct trainings. The international training providers are responsible for developing the training material and are conducting the trainings which are based on the syllabus which is developed by ISPMA. So here you see our product portfolio, which contains certifications in many different areas. So we started in 2004 with the area of software testing and now offer various certifications in requirements engineering, mobile app testing or software product management. And as software product management is a very important topic nowadays, and the demand for the certifications in this area is growing constantly, we thought about giving you some interesting insights today. On the one side about our certification, and on the other side about the differences between product managers and product owners. So now I will hand over to our experts, to Hans-Bernd Kittlaus at first. Enjoy the presentation.
Thank you very much, Sabrina. Welcome to everybody, wherever you are located. I would like to point out that if you have any questions, please use the chat function of our platform here. And you can put your question there and we will answer your questions at the end of the session. Harm Lucassen is a bit late, but I will start and I hope you will join us in a minute. We will talk about the subject product manager versus product owner, which is a subject that a lot of companies are struggling with all the companies that implement Scrum as their Agile methodology on the development side try to figure out how that concept that includes the role of the product owner fits together with the product management role. And that's what we want to talk about, and hopefully we can explain to you how you can generate synergy by organizing this in a good way. All right, I'm a bit fast. First of all, a few words about myself. My name is Hans-Bernd Kittlaus. I'm the chairman of ISPMA. I'm also the head of Innotivum Consulting. That is my own consulting and training company focused on software product management. My background is in software, so I studied computer science a long time ago, and then I worked for IBM for a number of years, and that was the first time that I got in touch with the subject of software product management. At that time, there was nothing. There were no books, there were no trainings, so the only thing you could do was you could ask people who already did the job what they were doing. And when I did that, I got very different answers. So everybody had his or her own definition of what software product management was about. So when I started my own consulting and training business in 2001, I chose software product management as one of my focus areas, knowing that there was a big need in that area to have more standardization, more explanation, more help. So over the last 15 years, I've done a lot of trainings and consulting, and you see some of the reference companies listed here that I've worked with, starting with Samsung in Korea and a couple of big and small European companies. I've also published 2 books on software product management. This one here, if you can see my pointer, that's the latest one that was published by Springer. Harm is working at the University of Utrecht in the Netherlands. He works on his PhD, and his focus area is software product management. He is a member of the extended board of ISPMA, and in particular responsible for our marketing activities. One of his research areas is the subject of user stories that are very relevant, in particular when you work with Agile methodologies. On this next chart, you see a bunch of fellow members of ISPMA. One of the special aspects of ISPMA is that members from industry and academia work together to develop the syllabi, what we call the SPM Book of Knowledge. That is the basis for all our trainings and certifications. So we have 9 university professors among our fellow members from all over the world, but we also have people from the industry side. This guy here is Karl Popp from SAP. This is Sven Wenger from UBS, the big Swiss banking organization. So quite a large spectrum of fellow members, experts on the subject of software product management, and by cooperating with all these experts, we make sure that we have high quality syllabi and can provide high quality trainings. The structure of the ISPMA work is shown in the Software Product Management Framework. The idea behind this framework is that we show all the activities that are part of software product management on one chart. So you see 7 columns here on this framework. The core activities of product managers are shown in the columns product strategy and product planning. So that's what product managers are directly responsible for. On the left side you have the column strategic management. So those are activities that happen on a company or business unit level where the product manager usually participates in. And then on the right side you have the functional units of a software organization: development, marketing, sales and distribution, and service and support. These are usually separate organizations within the software company, and these units need to be orchestrated by the product manager so that they contribute to the success of the product in the best possible way. And when we say success, what we mean is business success. So the responsibility of the software product manager is for the business success of the software product over its life cycle. So it's not just the next release, it's really a life cycle view. And as we all know, the life cycles of software products can be fairly long. When you think of very successful products like the Windows operating system or the Oracle database, these have been around for more than 30 years. So we are talking about very long life cycles that need to be managed. When we look at the direct responsibility of a software product manager, that is product strategy and product planning. Product strategy combines all the tasks and activities that are relevant in the long term. So whatever is important beyond the next release of the product. That starts with positioning and product definition. So here you think about what is the product about, how do you want to position it in the market, what is the value that customers get from using your product. Then we talk about the delivery model. So how do you bring the product to your customers? Is it a licensed product? Is it software as a service? Is it an internet platform? Those kind of questions. And the service strategy. So what are the product-related services that you need to be successful with the software product? Next subject is sourcing. So where do you get the resources that you need for implementing your product strategy? That is human resources, but that can also be make or buy decisions for your software. Then we go into the financial aspects. So the cost side, business cases as a tool for making your decisions. Software pricing, how do you price your offering? Ecosystem management is about the environment that you are in with your product. That can be the ecosystems based on other companies' products. For example, when your product runs on Microsoft Windows, you are automatically part of the Microsoft Windows ecosystem, and you need to think about how you want to participate in that ecosystem. On the other hand, your product may also be a kind of platform product that other players make use of. And players can be software vendors that use your product as a basis for their offering. It can be service providers that help customers to install and work with your product. So all kinds of players, and you need to think about how you want to deal with those players in your ecosystem. Do you want to establish some kind of partner program? Those kind of questions. The legal aspects, that's about the contract that you offer customers when they want to license or subscribe to your product. It's also about management of intellectual property protection. Open source brings quite a number of legal challenges, so all these legal aspects are in this box. And last but not least, we have performance and risk management. And when we say performance here, it actually means the business performance, the business numbers and how they develop over time and what you can do to improve them. On the product planning side, that's closer to the actual implementation of your product strategy. So here we talk about lifecycle management. So what will you do in the different stages of the lifecycle of your product? Road mapping, that's the question how you will implement your product strategy over your strategic time frame. When do you plan to make certain things available over time? So the roadmap is basically the bridge between your product strategy and your product plans. Release planning is really about the contents of your next release. So when we talk about licensed products, we typically have less frequent updates. So those updates, those new releases need to be planned. Which requirements do you want to implement for your next release? When we talk about internet environments, the release frequency can be much higher. So there you need different approaches how to plan that and how to make sure that over time you implement also the more strategic elements of your plan. And finally, we have product requirements engineering. That's really about all the requirements that you get for your product. That can be requirements that need to be implemented in software. It can also be different requirements, for example, regarding your contracts or regarding your support structure that you as a product manager need to deal with even when the implementation is not in software. Most of the requirements that you deal with here will be software requirements. So, and that's the primary interface to the development side. And here in the development column, you see the box project requirements engineering. So that's the interface product versus project requirements engineering. If you use Agile methodologies, you may or may not use the term project. With Agile, this is where the product owner role is located, and we will talk about that in more detail in a minute. All these functional units of the company, including development, need to be orchestrated by the product manager so that the units contribute to the success of the product in a good way. And what that means for development will also be covered in this webinar. When we look at the development side, development has historically used different methodologies. 25 years ago, the waterfall model was the dominant methodology. Then in the 1990s, we got iterative methodologies, and in the last 15 years, Agile methodologies became more prominent. This chart here shows the results of a survey that is conducted annually by Version 1. That's a company in the US that offers development tools for Agile development. And they asked 3,900 people worldwide, when they look into their organization, what is the percentage of teams that use Agile methodology? And as you can see here, only 9% said that all their teams use Agile methodology. 4% said that none of their teams use Agile methodology. That's a small number. Well, probably there is some bias in this survey, given that version 1 is in the Agile community. So I think that in reality, the number of companies that do not work with Agile at all in their software development is higher than this, but this survey shows 4%. 34% said that more than half of the teams work with Agile methodologies, and 53% said that less than half of the teams work with Agile methodology. So what you can see here is that in most organizations, more than one methodology is used in development. From a product management perspective, that means that product management needs to be able to cooperate with development, whatever the methodology is that development is using. So whether it is waterfall or whether it is Agile, product management needs to interface with development. But this interface may look a bit different depending on the methodology that the development team is using. This is from the same survey, and they asked if you use Agile methodology, what is the Agile methodology that you follow most closely? And as you can see here, 58% said Scrum, and another 10% said a hybrid of Scrum and extreme programming. And then there are quite a number of other methodologies. So in total, about 2/3 of the respondents use some sort of Scrum. That looks like a clear market leader in Agile methodology, but when you look into this in more detail, and we will come to that, usually companies adapt Scrum in very company-specific ways. So even though they claim they do Scrum, they may not exactly implement it the way it is specified in the Scrum guide. Well, Scrum in its original definition, as described in the Scrum guide, has 3 roles for teams. So the idea is that you establish a team of developers. The team is self-organized. All the team members are available full-time, And in that team, you basically have 3 different roles. There is a Scrum Master who is the methods guy. So the Scrum Master is responsible for making sure that the team follows the Scrum process. Then you have the product owner. The product owner is responsible for the interface to the outside world. So the product owner will talk to people outside of the Scrum team, be it customers or other stakeholders relevant for the development activity. And the product owner is also responsible for the backlog. The backlog is the ordered set of requirements that the team is supposed to work on. Well, and then there are all the other team members who do the development and test work. So that's the idea behind the Scrum roles. And then within Scrum you have a process. It is an approach to doing development so that you get feedback from stakeholders, probably customers or other stakeholders, on a frequent basis whether the team is on the right track with implementing requirements. So this feedback loop is very important in Scrum. As you can see from this definition of product owner, the product owner is quite has quite an overlap with the product manager. And here we talk about the requirements work, and we will come to that in a minute. When you work with Scrum, you need to be aware of the definitions of the terms. So there are a number of terms that are used differently in Scrum versus product management. There is a term vision. It is not explicitly defined in the Scrum guide, but it is very often used in Scrum teams, and the meaning is it is a more detailed description of what the team is supposed to build. So that is different from the product management view, where we say the product vision is really where we want to take the product over the strategic time frame, which can be somewhere between 3 and 5 years. The product is also not defined in the Scrum guide, but it is used, for example, in the term product owner. Very often in Scrum, when they use the term product, they mean the result of the current development activity. So it's a shorter term idea. Product stands for what is being produced. Whereas from a product management perspective, when we say product, we mean product over its life cycle, which can be a lot of years. So again, 2 different time horizons here. Release. In Scrum, a release is very often meant as the result of a sprint, a deliverable that can be given to a customer to work with, to test. That is different from the term release as we use it in product management. So in product management, when we say release, it's an official version of the product that goes to customers and is maintained. So that's much more official than what is meant by release in Scrum. Well, the product owner term, in some companies it's used for the head of the business unit. That's not what is meant in Scrum. In Scrum, it's this role in the Scrum team. The term project is also not defined in Scrum, but very often used because companies are used to project organization. So they may even have project managers, which actually do not exist in the Scrum definition. Well, and then of course you have the backlog as the ordered list of requirements. As you can see from this chart, when you work with Scrum on the development side, you need to make sure that there is a common understanding of all these terms. Otherwise, you run the risk that people will use the same terms but mean different things. So make sure that there is a common understanding. Well, I already talked about different implementations of Scrum. This is a chart from the State of Scrum report that is published annually by the Scrum Alliance. That's one of the organizations that offer Scrum trainings and certifications. And as you can see here, the way the product owner role is implemented in development organizations can be quite different. So 33% of the respondents said the product owner acts as an intermediary to consolidate and reconcile the priorities of multiple stakeholders. 29% said there is a dedicated product owner that sets priorities and works with the customers. This is actually the definition from the Scrum Guide, but only 29% of respondents have implemented it this way. Well, and 12% actually say there is no product owner role. Well, by definition, if you don't have a product owner, you don't do Scrum. So it's quite interesting that the Scrum Alliance publishes this result, which shows that even though companies claim that they have implemented Scrum, they haven't really implemented Scrum, but something else. If we assume that you want to implement Scrum on the development side as it is described, there are clearly overlapping responsibilities between the product owner and the product manager. One key difference is in the time horizons. So, as I explained before, the product owner has a shorter time horizon. He looks at the current development activity and what is being produced by the Scrum team, whereas the product manager has this life cycle perspective and looks at a much longer time frame. Nevertheless, when you only have one Scrum team, you may implement this in a way where one person assumes both the product manager and the product owner role. But this does not scale up. So as soon as you have multiple Scrum teams, this will not work, because it's the product owner role takes a lot of time. It is an operational role. A colleague of mine used to say the product owner feeds the hungry Scrum beast, which means that the product owner needs to make sure on a continuous basis that there is enough work for the Scrum team so that they continue to be busy. So that's very operational, and that means, if the product owner wants to ensure this work for the team, there will not be sufficient time for the more strategic aspects of software product management if one person assumes both roles. So as soon as you want to scale this up, you need to separate the roles. You need to have different people as product managers versus product owners. The way you can organize this is either that you say the product owner is part of the development organization and has a strong dotted line into product management, or you can say the product owner is part of the product management organization and has a strong dotted line into development. In any case, you will end up with some kind of matrix organization that needs to be managed, of course. This is described in more detail in a book by Dean Leffingwell called Agile Software Requirements that was published a couple of years ago. And it's also described in an article that I published some years ago in a book. If you are interested in that article, please contact me. Dean Leffingwell is also the mastermind behind SAFe. SAFe stands for Scaled Agile Framework, and it is, in my view, the best framework for scaling up Scrum in an organization. The current version of SAFe is version 4, and this chart here shows a graphical representation of version 4 of SAFe. They have just published a book on version 4. It is the reference guide, so if you need more detail on this, check out the book. In this graphical representation, you can see here that the product owner, if you follow my cursor, the product owner works as part of the Scrum team. So down here, this is the team level. So here is where the Scrum team works in the Scrum iterations. Each Scrum team works on its own backlog, decides which requirements from the backlog they work on in each of the iterations. The product manager is here on what the SAFe people call the program level. So again, you see a backlog here. So the product manager will work on a higher level backlog. And in this backlog, you typically have epics as higher level descriptions of requirements. This is input to the Scrum teams. So the Scrum teams will get this ordered list of epics, and then they will continue analysis, maybe break the epics further down, so that that's the role of the product owner to do that, and then the Scrum team will work on their backlogs. So that's part of the relationship of product managers versus product owners. The approach of SAFe is very much in line with the approach of ISPMA, where we say that the relationship between product managers and product owners requires this kind of split of responsibilities. And this enables the product manager to have enough time to also work on the more strategic aspects of the product. So that's the idea behind SAFe and also behind the ISPMA approach. So here you see this split of responsibilities on a more detailed level. The product manager is responsible in particular for the more strategic aspects, product strategy, product vision, whereas the product owner works much closer to development. In a lot of cases, he or she is expected to be the project manager for the Scrum team. As I said before, Scrum doesn't know the role of project manager, but still in a lot of organizations they need that role simply because the Scrum team is not as self-organizing as it's supposed to be according to Scrum. So they need somebody who takes care of the organizational aspects. The product manager is responsible for the roadmaps, so the translation of the product strategy onto the time axis. The product owner is responsible for the backlog and for analyzing in more detail the epics, the requirements that product management provides. The product manager will take corrective action, will monitor the business numbers, the key performance indicators, and if needed, will initiate corrective action. So that's more on a business level, whereas the product owner is much closer to development and needs to align with the Scrum methodology. And the product manager works on the apex, so high-level view on requirements, whereas the product owner works on user stories, so that's a much lower level view, and that's the basis on which the development team, the Scrum team, can work and implement. Harm Lucassen, as I told you before, he is working on the academic side, and this whole subject, the relationship between product manager and product owner, is still an area where the researchers on the academic side try to get into. They try to understand in more detail how this works and what works, what doesn't work. If you are interested in cooperating with researchers, please contact Harm under his email address, and he will be happy to include you in his research activities. ISPMA is developing a curriculum, and the curriculum consists of syllabi, so these are modules. On the bottom level here we have what we call the foundation level. That's a syllabus that covers the whole software product management framework. So that translates into a 3-day training that covers all the aspects that you see in the framework. On the next level, the excellence level, we go into more detail in these different areas, and the trainings include much more room for case studies, for exercises, for applying methods and techniques that you can use in these 4 different areas of product management. All these trainings come with certification. So ISPMA has developed certifications for all these 5 modules here, and ISQI is the certification agency that helps us with offering the certification exams and issuing the certificates. So far, a lot of successful trainings based on the ISPMA syllabi have been conducted all over the world. The certification exams are usually offered in combination with the trainings and with ISQI, but you can also go to Pearson VUE test centers all over the world and do the certification exam there. ISPMA has more than 800 members. We are growing at a fast rate, and I would like to invite all of you to become a member of ISPMA. It's free for individuals. Companies have to pay a small fee. If you become a member of ISPMA, you will get frequent information on what's new in software product management, and you will be involved in all kinds of communication and activities. For further information, you can contact ISPMA or you can contact Harm and myself directly. Here are our email addresses. If you are more interested in information on certification and exams, please contact Sabrina and Marcel. On the ISPMA website, you can find the next dates for trainings on a worldwide basis. So this year there will still be a number of trainings, for example in Hamburg in November, in Vienna in November, in India in December. If you are interested in participating in a training, please check the ISPMA website and register for a training. So with that, I would like to go back to Sabrina. Sabrina, do we have any questions?
First, thank you very much, Hans-Bernd, for this very interesting presentation. It was really great. And currently we have no questions, but I would like to invite everybody who is joining the webinar to ask his questions. And as Hans-Bernd already told you, you have also the possibility to write us a mail directly. But if you have any questions right now, feel free to use our chat or question function. And we will be here for you a few more minutes. In the meantime, I would like to inform you about the ISPMA exams. So as Hans-Bernd already told you, there are some trainings in October and November, and I would like to inform you about the channels. So if you are interested in writing the exam, you can either write it on an online platform via Pearson VUE, in a Pearson VUE test center, or in the classical way as a paper-based exam. If you have any questions on that or would like to register for that, please just contact me or myself. And I see we have a question. 1 second. Hans-Bernd, I think it's a question for you. How are these roles defined for product innovations?
Well, innovation is an integral part of product management. Maybe we can go back to the framework, Sabrina. Can you go back to the chart that shows the framework?
Yes, of course.
In the software product management framework, in the left column, the strategic management column, you see a box here that says innovation management. So these are activities on a corporate or business unit level where the company tries to work with researchers or other partners or may have internal research to generate innovations that can go into the products. And it is part of the responsibility of the product manager to make sure that at least some part of this innovation work will benefit his or her product. So these innovation activities go into the strategy and planning of the product. So for example, if you find out that there is some new technology on the horizon that may be interesting for your product, you need to make sure that at a certain point in time you will investigate that technology, and if it turns out to be relevant for your product, you will want to include this in your roadmap, and that will result in requirements to implement that new technology in your product. So it's part of the product manager role to determine new technologies, innovative elements, and then make sure that this goes into the product planning. Of course, the input for new technologies or innovation can also come from development. Very often, a good system architect will be very knowledgeable about new technologies, about new developments that could give innovative input to the product. So that is also a source for these kind of innovative elements that the product manager needs to put into the roadmap and into the requirements. So the cooperation between product management and development with regard to innovations is a very important one, but it's not the only one. Innovations can also come from other sources.
Okay. Thank you, Hans-Bernd. So I hope your question has been answered. I have another question from a participant from Lisbon. So he's asking if there is any possibility to visit a training in Lisbon, Hans-Bernd, and he's asking for an online training. So I can answer this question because currently there is no online training or e-learning, but you have the possibility to do the exam online in a Pearson VUE test center. Regarding the course, Hans-Bernd, do you have any information about courses in Lisbon?
Well, actually, I've just done a training in Lisbon at the end of September, and we are planning the next one in the first half of 2017 in Lisbon. It's not scheduled yet, but we can inform you as soon as it is scheduled. If you send me an email, I will make sure that you get that information.
Okay, thank you. And another very long question, so I will read it for you. I think that the tension created by the overlap in the product owner, product manager role can provide benefits to the organization. The product owner should be able to challenge the strategy. They have overall responsibility, the profitability of the product. Do you think this is a fair statement? If so, how can this process be supported by Scrum?
Well, in our view, the responsibility for the business aspects of the product are with the product manager. The product owner is typically not directly responsible for the business aspects. I agree with the statement that there is usually some sort of tension between the roles because of this overlap, and that's what this webinar was about, how you can deal with this tension, how you can make sure that it's resolved in a way that is productive and beneficial for the organization. Of course, the cooperation between product management and product owner allows both sides to question whatever the other side is doing. And if the product owner has his or her own views on what would be good for the product, what would be reasonable in terms of priorities, that is something that needs to be discussed between product manager and product owner. That's that's part of this cooperation between the two worlds. Does this answer the question?
I hope so. And the next question. So the product owner could be based either in the development team or as part of the software product management team. Do you have any experiences of where it works best? In many organizations, depending on where leadership comes from, you do things differently or with a different intent.
Well, I've seen both alternatives in reality, and I've seen both of them work well and work not so well. So in the end, it always depends on the people involved. The advantage of having the product owner as part of the product management team is that the cooperation, the communication is easier. There is no organizational boundary. And then the product owner is delegated into the Scrum team, which is part of the development organization. Development managers often do not like that alternative because they want to have full control over all the members of the Scrum team. So that's why development managers usually prefer having the product owner in their own organization. I can understand that preference. If you implement it that way, of course, the communication between a development manager and the product owners is easier, more straightforward. But then you have to make sure that this dotted line between the product owner and the product manager really works. So at least they need to talk on a weekly basis, if not more, to make sure that they work in a synchronized way. That's a challenge. If the product owner and the product manager are not fully synchronized, then you can easily run into problems.
Okay, so Hans-Bernd, we have one last question. So, one of the participants would like to know your thoughts about the conflicts between product managers and the ways to reduce this. So, yeah, a very general question, but do you have an answer on that?
Well, conflicts between product managers are usually about resources. So when product managers have responsibilities for different products in these corporate or business unit processes where we talk about portfolio management and resource management, there may be conflicts because there is one big budget and there is one number of developers, and so the product managers may compete to get their share of these developers or their share of the budget. The way these competitive situations are handled in companies can differ. That can be a fight, and some companies want it to be a fight, thinking that the fight will lead to an optimal result. There are other companies where the culture of the company does not allow fights. They want people to cooperate in a friendly way in order to achieve the best possible result for the whole organization. So the way these conflicts between product managers are handled depends very much on the culture and the rules of the specific organization. So there is no general rule how to handle that. It helps a lot if the executive management defines some rules how they want this to work, so that all the players, all the product managers know what they are supposed to do when those conflicts come up.
Okay, thank you. So that was the last question. Thank you everybody for joining, and my last information is that we have another session today in the afternoon at 4 p.m. So if you have any colleagues who were not able to join this session, you can offer them to register for the next session. You will find the link, the registration link, on our social media pages, so on Facebook, for example, LinkedIn and Twitter. Yeah, thank you everybody, and have a nice day, and perhaps see you in the next session. Goodbye.
Thank you too. Bye-bye.